surrounded by darkness with no light in sight. You feel a presence next to you, a warm presence. You feel their comfort, their warmth. In a world of sorrow and despair, they take your hand and they lean in close. They whisper in your ear, "It's time to go off the cuff." That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing the top 15 films of 2024 off the cuff edition. We're back. And just like I had a pickle in the first video, the CreamBetweens, I run into another pickle, and that is that I've decided to include some films that are releasing in January. Blasphemy, I know, it's blasphemous. But I'm late to these videos. Might as well include some shit that was supposed to come out in 2024 but came to me in January. A quick interjection here. Just want to let y'all know that I did see both Nickel Boys and Hard Truths. I was able to see both films. So, yeah, pretty cool that I got to see both of them. Neither of them made my top 15, though. Hard Truths was just outside of the top 15 at number 18. That's going to be between Queer and Trap. Sits right in between there. Really, really liked it. But I didn't absolutely love it like I do with other Mike Leigh films. I feel like it's a little bit of an antithesis to Happy Go Lucky, which is one of my favorite films of all time. And what's so weird is I see the same person, like in my own personal life, I see the same person in Pansy as I see in Poppy. And it's also kind of interesting how they have very similar but opposite names. So something to keep in mind there. And then Nickel Boys is a few films below that, sitting at number 23 between The Monk and the Gun and All of Us Strangers. I personally really liked the first-person perspective. I think there was a lot of people that didn't really like it. They saw it as a gimmick. It really worked for me. I was super engaged in this story, in this recollection. This Nickel Boys is another good example of a movie that does memories really, really well. This seems to be a year for memories on film, which is pretty cool. I felt like the non-linearity of it worked really, really well at the beginning, and I really enjoyed, the first leg of the movie a lot. But when it got to the actual Nickel part, things really, really slowed down. And I know they were supposed to slow down. It's like the life trajectory just came to a halt. That's the point. But I was so used to and like on board with the non-linearity of recalling these memories, right? And then it just became slow and very linear once it got to Nickel. And I mean, I knew what was going to happen as soon as you get into Nickel. You kind of know where things are going, right? And it's not necessarily fun to watch because it's pretty horrible stuff. But I really enjoyed the side characters of the guy that he met in the bar. I think his name is supposed to be Chicky or something. That was like his nickname. And then the boxing guy. Yeah, I wish we saw more of them. I realized that because this is recalling memories and it's taking a first-person perspective, you're kind of limited to what you are shown, and it kind of sets a precedent of boundaries within the film's perspective. But still, I found those characters very interesting. We only got to see a little bit of them, and then they're just kind of forgotten. But yeah, that's what I thought of those films. Just thought I'd throw that out there. All right, back to the top 15.
よろしいですか？失礼いたします。
いやなんかこの雑炊変で食っても食っても減らないのよ。
ずーっと雑炊食べてんのよ。
これどういう雑炊？
あ、申し訳ありません。
いや気味悪くてなくなったと思ってもまたいっぱいになるから
変な雑炊で。
あ、それは雑炊が変ではなく時間が変になってまして、どうもこう時間が繰り返しているようなんです。
は？
ですからある一定時間が経つとまた時間が戻ってしまうようなんです。ですからお雑炊もそういうことかと。
熱燗もいちいち鍋に戻ってしまいまして、
じゃあ俺らずっとこれ食ってなきゃいけないわけ？
そうですね。
いや飽きるじゃん。
So coming in at the number 15 spot, ladies and gentlemen, we have a film from Japan. This is a director that I've talked about in length. In fact, the director Yunta Yamaguchi is his name. Made my favorite film of 2022, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. He returns to us with a little film called River. And Yunta has stuck to the script. He has taken upon himself to fuck with time a little bit more. Even more than he did than with Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. He actually does 2 minutes again here. But whereas the time fuckery in Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes was purely digital, it was this digital phenomenon between two screens separated by two floors, and the happenings of things happening 2 minutes apart and all that kind of shit. We have an actual real life phenomenon of kind of like a record skipping in time. And so this film takes place in a little historical town. It's very curated, it has bathhouses, it's got the old architecture, and it's like a resort, right? I think it's in Hokkaido. Snowy. It's quite beautiful, actually. And in this film, for some reason, it's like a record skipping over. This series of events will happen in 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden, everybody's transported. Everybody is back where they were 2 minutes ago. However, they remember everything. They remember everything, and it keeps happening 2 minutes apart. They keep going back, and they just have to figure out what the hell's going on, why it's happening, and how to stop it. And Yunta Yamaguchi is really good at doing this. It's very entertaining, it's very fun, but it's so cute. This is a cute-ass movie. Just like Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. This is very, very cute, and I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was a pleasant experience. However, I do have Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes to compare it to. Therefore, you know, I have that comparison, you know? And so if I hadn't seen Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, I would probably love this even more because it's micro budget, if not no budget. And it does so much with so little, and I love that. But it's sitting here at number 15, and it's one of my favorite films of the year. So that's where it will stay.
Let's go. What? I've got a surprise for you at home.
What is it?
It's a surprise. Yeah. Take this. Hey, careful with that. It's my cash cow, yeah? It's not an actual cow, but you know. Let's go. Let's go.
Next up, we have, at number 14, we have a film called Bird from Andrea Arnold. I've heard of Andrea Arnold. I've wanted to see her film Fish Tank for a while. She also did that one with Shia LaBeouf called American Honey. And this one takes place in a grimy North Kent location in England. It's that, you know, grimy, dirty British locale. And it's about a young woman, a young girl, who's 12 years old, She's in the midst of puberty, and she's being raised by her father, who's like 26. And so there's a cycle of young people having kids way too young. Anyway, this young girl, she encounters a strange man in the town who has come back to find his family, and his name is Bird, and he kind of has this sling blade quality to him. He's this very strange, kind of somewhat creepy guy, but he's very pure-hearted, and he has that protective quality to him. He wants to protect people. And this is a really beautiful, really well done coming of age movie in a very unique setting. It has a lot of identity. It has a lot of culture in it. It feels rich. The only problem I have with this movie, and it would probably be way higher on the list, is that it goes in a anthropomorphic direction that did not need to occur at all. In fact, I think it brings this movie down a couple notches, because all of the symbolism was there from the beginning. You could see it. The way that it went did not need to happen. However, movie good otherwise. It also has Jason Williamson in it, who's not really somebody I would see being a pretty good actor, but in his small role, he did a really good job. It's the Sleaford Mods guy, and he's kind of a character in himself. So it's kind of cool seeing him do his thing. All right.
はい。これは夢じゃないよね、これね。プレイステーションみたいです。なすみくんのこの検証生活には。
それは8ヶ月前のこと。
電車でゴー。
それと
専用コントローラー付き。
さらに6ヶ月前。と以上のものがすでに当たっていた。
検証生活Wonderful.
Next up, we have a documentary from, I don't think it's from Japan. I think it's a UK, USA production, but it is about something that happened in Japan. It's called The Contestant, directed by Claire Titley. And I don't think this documentary is amazing in terms of it being a documentary. Like, it doesn't have super transformative qualities, but I think its subject matter is so compelling to the point where it is in my top 15. And it is about this kind of like game show. It was like early reality TV, still a pioneering genre in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's about this segment. You may have heard of this. It's about the segment that they did for a long time in this show. It was a weekly segment where they had this guy in a tiny little apartment, and he was selected at random. This guy named Nasubi. He was a aspiring comedian, and he was selected at random to partake in this unknown challenge, and that is he's alone in a tiny apartment with absolutely nothing. They stripped him naked. He has nothing except a pile of magazines. And his goal is to survive for an unknown amount of time. And they never told him his goal, by the way. It was just thrown in there, and he kind of had to figure it out. He had this goal of surviving in this tiny little apartment for a certain amount of time simply by winning sweepstakes in the magazines. So every single day he would send out hundreds and hundreds of little postcards that were in the magazines and that kind of thing to win this product, and that's how he would survive. And he was not, like I said, he was not told how long it was going to be. It ended up being 15 months. Over a year. Now, he could have left at any time. They never told him that, but he could have left at any time. The door was unlocked. And yeah, insane, right? And this guy, Nasubi, is an absolute angel of a man. And then you have the producer guy, the guy that came up with this concept. And he is the devil. He literally refers to himself as the devil because he knows what he is making is evil. And he's trying to push the limits of human entertainment in a nefarious way. But when you have that contrast of this angel man partaking in the challenge that is created by this sinister entertainment guy, it really creates this cool contrast that I found incredibly compelling. And like I said, the documentary itself isn't amazing, but like I said, the subject matter here is so good, and this blew my mind so much. So much. And yeah, highly recommend checking this out, The Contestant.
Anyway, you got me burning through all these letters. And after this conversation, we already on E. You know what that stands for?
Marine Corps Martial Arts Program.
What?
MCMAP. Combat system combines hand-to-hand, close quarters. Oh. I think he's on the Wikipedia page. Teaching jujitsu to the 6th Marine Regiment.
Okay.
It's team building. One mind, any weapon.
Call in any units on patrol.
Yep.
Here come your peeps.
Chief!
You want to honor that deal, or do I got to transition to
Put
E?
some distance between you.
Let's not do that.
Hey!
Next up, we have a film that I alluded to in my CreamBetweens. And when I was talking about the order, I was talking about how I was missing a tight action thriller, tight American action thriller, that in the style of Heat, Michael Mann, that kind of thing. And it came to me in the form of a film that was released on Netflix. I didn't see it in the theater, but it felt like I was in the theater watching it, called Rebel Ridge, which is directed by Jeremy Saulnier. And this is about a guy who, he's like an ex-military guy, and his cousin, I believe, is in prison, and he's trying to get him out of prison, and he is stopped by the police for a very stupid reason. And these police officers in this small town are obviously extremely corrupt, and they put him in a situation where he's really fucked over. And he is very on the ball. He knows what he's doing, and he's trying to overcome this corruption, this systematic oppression that we see with a lot of policing in the United States. Obviously very topical, you know, and usually with topical things I come in with cynicism, but this does a fantastic job at doing what it's trying to do. And it's really a Western in disguise. If you look at the basic genre elements of what makes a Western and you analyze this movie, it's really a Western, which is really, really cool. And if you hate police officers, you'll love this movie. However, there is room for nuance. There is room for recognizing that, you know, I don't necessarily disagree with ACAB, but like, there are good in people, you know? And I think that's important to be a nuanced person. Don't live off of definitive statements. And yeah, loved Rebel Ridge.
Alright, so what's it gonna be? Withers or what? Don't you want to get home to your pregnant wife?
Of course I do.
All right, so what's the problem?
Now, if this is somebody's life we're dealing with, shouldn't we at least talk about it?
This is a joke.
No, it's a deliberation. You were ready to send this man to prison, maybe forever, just like that.
And I heard the facts of the case. Did you?
Yeah, right. Lawyer didn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was innocent.
Well, he doesn't have to. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. Does anyone have even the slightest hesitation that James Scythe is guilty?
Moving on from there, another very American movie, coming in at number 11, directed by a man very famous for Westerns, is Clint Eastwood's Juror Number 2. Now, I'm going to get my gripes with this film out of the way, even though it's numbered 11 as 4 stars out of 5, 8 out of 10 movie. The problem that I have with this movie, and probably what a lot of people have with it, is its dialogue. Its dialogue is rough. It feels very student feature-y in the writing of the dialogue. I noticed this very early on. So many characters start their sentences with the word look. I've done that in the past. I'm guilty of it. It's a good conversational way to start a sentence, right? If you're trying to explain something, you say, you know, this guy over here, blah, 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 blah. But look, blah, 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 you know? And it happens so many times in this movie, and I noticed it early on, and it keeps happening. It was very annoying. However, this is a great example of a screenwriter that's really bad at writing dialogue, naturalistic dialogue, but really good at creating a complex and multifaceted narrative that is thematically rich. This feels like something that could have released in like the 40s or 50s. It is very much about the American brand of justice, how it relates to morality, ethics, that kind of thing. And it kind of encapsulates America from that standpoint very well. And its concept, which I won't spoil, its main concept is really, really good, and it's very compelling, and I thought this was great stuff from Mr. Clint.
Perdón, no tengo la respuesta.
¿Cuándo se va a acabar el mundo?
All right, moving on from there, we have a Mexican film from director named Lila Aviles called Totem. I went into this knowing nothing about it. I saw it on Canopy. I highly recommend that you see it on Canopy. That's the only thing that it's on for streaming, I believe. This is about a young girl who is attending the birthday party for her dying father. Now, I mean, technically that's a spoiler, but, before you get mad at me, it is you can very early on detect what's happening, what this event is for. It's very obvious, and them not really telling you, I thought was going to be a bad thing. I thought, oh, this film is just going to be like sadcore bait, you know? And it's just it's gonna get some cheap tears out of me, you know? But it doesn't. It doesn't. It did make me cry. However, I believe this film does a really fantastic job at capturing family and friend dynamics in the face of loss, in the face of grief, or anticipated grief, and how everybody kind of interacts with one another, how everybody kind of handles it in their own way, right? And what also makes this film really unique is that it has this, as you can maybe detect from the title of the film, it's called Totem, is that it has kind of like a spiritual, metaphysical quality to it. It's never out abruptly shown or said or any of that, but the whole movie has this undertone, it has this undercurrent of something other, outside of our human comprehension, and as it relates to grief, and how it relates to human emotion. And by the end of the film, you really feel it at like a fever pitch, the spiritual aspect, and it's very affecting. It feels authentic as fuck, and I don't really know how to fully explain it, really. But if that sounds intriguing to you, that would sound intriguing to me. I highly recommend seeing it. It's very underseen. Totem.
Father Bellini.
Aldo.
Am I the last?
Not quite. How are you?
Oh, well, you know, fairly dreadful. Have you seen the papers?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently it's already decided it's to be me.
And I happen to agree with them.
What if I don't want it? No sane man would want the papacy.
Some of our colleagues seem to want it.
What if I know in my heart that I am not worthy?
You are more worthy than any of us.
I'm not.
Well, then tell your supporters not to vote for you, to pass the chalice.
And let it go to him? And I could never live with myself.
All right, moving on from there, we have... This was a refreshing one. This was a breath of fresh air to me, because I had seen a lot of films that I thought to be very mediocre in the theater, and I felt like I was on a mediocrity streak. And I wasn't really expecting this film to break it. I just wanted something to see. In fact, I was expecting this to be boring as fuck, but boy was I wrong. And that is Conclave from Edward Berger. This is a film about a fictional instance in which the Pope suddenly dies. An unexpected death, and therefore the procedure in this situation is to hold a conclave, which is an election of the next pope. And so you have all these higher ups in the Catholic Church from all over the world coming to the Vatican to elect a new pope. And this is very obviously alluding to the current thing that was happening when this movie came out, the US election, obviously. And I come into a movie that is very topical like that with a lot of cynicism, just like I talked about with Rebel Ridge. But this film does a fantastic job at, first of all, being really entertaining. It's very funny, too, while also being enthralling. The way that it sprinkles in little elements of modernism and modern technology in this very historically curated Vatican is very funny. It's very, very funny and charming, and it knows it's funny. It's got like a serious melodramatic face, while on the inside it's actually smirking, a clever smirk underneath. But the main thing that this film does so well is that it really recognizes the qualities of what makes a good leader, and that's what this film kind of deducts by the end of it. You know, you have all of these guys who are slated to be the next leader, but they have their issues, they have their problems. And it really deconstructs what makes a good leader. In the end of this film, I'm not going to spoil it, but the end of this film I could see being very controversial. I haven't really read about the varying opinions on this, but I could definitely see how it would be polarizing. And I don't think it's necessarily a social statement. It's not trying to be topical, I don't think. I think it's trying to bait you into thinking that it is. But I think what it's doing, actually, like I said, it's deducting what is making a good leader. And what the end of the film does is it really gets down to what makes truth. And I reference the alchemy in this instance, where the alchemical makings of the Philosopher's Stone, which is another word for truth, really, is that of the divine union of feminine and masculine principles. That also goes back to Nietzsche with the Übermensch. You know, you have the Apollonian and the Dionysian coming together to make the perfect Greek tragedy. You have the master and slave morality coming together as a, truthful way to look about the world. And I believe that's what this film is doing. It's showing you, in a perfect world, what a good leader would be. And I thought it was really, really well done. Okay, moving on. Sounds so pretentious talking about that. Next up, we have number 8. That's going to be a film that I wanted to see at the end of 2023, and alas, it did not release for me until this year. And so I caught it over streaming, and I've watched it again very recently. It's excellent stuff from Wim Wenders' Perfect Days. This is about a quaint, older Japanese man living in Tokyo, and he has a very monk-ish lifestyle, modern monk lifestyle, where he has a very strict routine, and he has these little pleasantries throughout his daily life, listening to his favorite cassettes, taking pictures of the tree line, observing enigmatic figures in the public just doing their thing. But he cleans toilets for a living, and he loves it. He loves his life. And this movie, I believe, takes place over the course of 7 days. And within the 7 days, he's thrown little hiccups. He's kind of thrown off his groove a little bit in a manner of ways. And one of which is just one of the things. But it does kind of take center stage. It's why it's in the trailer and everything. Is that his niece suddenly comes to stay to him. She shows up at his door. And so he, spends a day with his niece, and it's lovely. And but then there's a scene that happens towards the end of this film. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is a fantastic example of doing so much with so little, of subtle but effective cinematic storytelling, where any other movie that's really telling rather than showing would take pages upon pages of script and exposition to elicit an emotional response from the viewer. However, this scene, there's very little said at all, and yet you feel so much from it. And it's so powerful, and amazing stuff from Wim Wenders. That is all I'm going to say about that. Perfect Days, great stuff.
What's left of me is in my brain. When you have no future, all you have left is your past. And if your past is a lie, like mine, especially to those closest to you, a fiction, then you can't exist except as a fictional character.
All right, moving on from there, we have number 7. You have the GOAT, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, Paul Schrader with Oh Canada. I really didn't think I was going to be able to see this. It popped up in my theater suddenly, and I rushed out the door to go see it. And unfortunately, the theater that I saw it in had terrible fucking audio, but I did not care. I loved every second of it. And this is about a older, dying man who was a draft dodger of the Vietnam War, and he went on to make these leftist documentaries. And there's a documentary crew at his home trying to make a documentary about him. And so the whole movie is kind of surrounded by him doing this confessional, right? About his life. He's telling his life story. And he keeps bringing up things around his wife. His wife is there observing, kind of telling him, you don't have to do this. And he keeps saying these things that she didn't know. And he just doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like, he's letting it all out there. Very Schrader-esque to do that. And it really kind of he doesn't paint himself in a very romantic light. He doesn't, even though the film takes the form of something very romantic, what he's actually doing is not romantic at all. In fact, he's not a very honorable figure in the grand scheme of things. But the way that this film does flashbacks, kind of French New Wavy, where it will flash between flash forwards and flash backwards, present, and it kind of remixes things. Characters will show up in different timelines and that kind of thing. And it's done exceptionally well. This is the most experimental thing that Paul Schrader has done in a while. And I just love that Schrader is just pumping them out almost every year now. I love it. I just keep doing it, Schrader. Keep doing it. I believe in you.
Miss, excuse me! Hey! Hey, miss!
Hey! Oh my god!
What
Oh my
the
god!
fuck?
I'm so sorry. We're not a threat. Just don't look at us like that. Sorry. I'm.
Yeah, no. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Molly. Molly McNair.
And I'm Matthew Sutter. Sorry, you make us feel so crazy. Like you're in. Oh my
It's
god.
like you stepped out of my brain.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're like.
Like we saw you walking down, and we're like, "That's our girl. That's the woman." Like it's she. I see her turning butter now.
Yeah, it's perfect. You literally
Turning
turn the butter. Yeah. We're filmmakers.
Like movie directors?
Yes, exactly.
I'm her producer. That's why we're chasing
I'm the
you.
director.
Because you are a vision.
I would just really love if you came in and read for something that I've been working on for a very long time.
I'm sorry, I'm not an actor.
No, that's okay. That's okay because the best actress is just a woman who says yes. Say yes.
What's your name?
Lillian?
Oh my god. Lillian? You said I'm not sure of that. I love that. Like Lillian. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, wait, can we just walk?
Yes.
course, yes.
Oh my
Oh
god,
my God,
yes.
yes. Okay.
So it's called As It Turns.
All right. Moving on from there, we have number 6, The Sweet East. This is from Sean Price Williams. I was really excited to see this at the end of 2023, and alas, I did not see it. So I caught it on streaming during the spring. And this is about a high school girl who is on a Washington, D.C. trip. If you live on the East Coast, that is something that you do. Usually it's in 8th grade, but for some reason she's there in high school. And she just kind of like slips away from her group and just goes on a little road trip of sorts, meeting a cast of characters along the East Coast, politically, culturally. And this film is very much an anti-Hollywood film. Not that it's saying like Hollywood bad, but in its form, in the way that it doesn't adhere to traditional American cinematic qualities. It's really changing the language, which I love that shit. You know, it's very much within the same realm as Cassavetes, De Palma, Wexler, Downey Sr., Van Peebles, Safdie's. Anybody that can be loosely categorized as anti-Hollywood, this film follows in their footsteps. And I love it so much. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. It's kind of it's kind of surrealist. It's kind of weird. It goes places that are out there, and I love it. Hey y'all, quick interjection I just want to make here. So as I was editing this video and I was kind of revisiting The Sweet East, I kind of realized how much I really love this movie. I'm not going to change the rating here because, you know, I haven't seen the movie again. But this was probably the first really good movie that I saw from 2024 in 2024. And I think it was at the top of my list for a little bit until I saw another movie I'm about to talk about. I almost said it. But yeah, when you see something really good super early in the year, I don't really have anything to compare it to. So I think I just had it at an 8 out of 10, you know, see how it goes up against other things. And it really is, you know, it's the top of my 8 out of 10s. It's the top of my 4 stars out of 5. But just revisiting some scenes from this, watching some interviews from Sean Price Williams and the writer of this, I forget his first name, Pinkerton is his last name. I'm realizing just how much I fucking love and adore this movie. It just speaks to me on so many different levels, not just artistically, but even personally too. I realized a couple months after watching this that an artist that I've met, graphic artist, he did some designs, I think for the physical release of this movie. He did some art designs, poster designs for this movie. Steak Mountain is what he goes by. He's a really good friend of one of my best friends who I'm actually going to talk about later in this video. He's my Irish correspondent, and yeah, you'll hear a little bit about him. But yeah, he's one of he's a good friend of one of my best friends, and my best friend is really inspired by his artwork, and we even did a film series together at a local independent theater. That's how I met him, as we were working at this independent theater together, and he had put on this kind of esoteric, obscure, forgotten classics kind of series where he was showing like weird shit that was like erotic horror from the late 60s through the 80s, you know, people like Jess Franco, some other names I can't recall right now, but one of them was Walery Borowczyk, who's a Polish director, and after just watching some interviews with Sean Price Williams, he's like Sean Price Williams' like biggest inspiration. He's like one of his favorite filmmakers ever. I've never heard any other filmmaker ever talk about Walery Borowczyk, ever. And apparently the main poster that they made for this film was supposed to be heavily inspired by the posters of Walery Borowczyk. I mean, like I said, this movie just, every single time I like read about it or revisit it, or I'm probably going to rewatch it, it just gets better and better and better. I love this movie so much. So yes, if I were to do like a re-ranking after rewatching all these movies, this movie would probably be higher, maybe even my top 5. So yeah, just want to throw that out there. All right, back to the video. All right, moving on from there. We have number 5, La Chimera from Alice Rohrwacher. Rohrwacher. It's a hard name to say. This is about a English archaeologist who comes to Italy, and you can tell he has a past there. He's got a big past, but he's kind of like this. He does archaeology in the non-orthodox way. He's not really following the rules. He's a bad boy, you know? And I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to be upfront with you. I don't really remember much about why I love this movie so much. I just know that I did. And I would love to rewatch it. But I wish I had something more to say about it. But it's at number 5 for a reason, because I remember seeing it and being like, holy shit, I love film. I just remembered that I loved watching movies. That's how this movie made me feel. And yeah, I loved it. Very kind of Fellini, Pasolini-esque, you know. I wish I had more to say about it, but unfortunately I do not. Moving on from there, we have a Japanese anime film from Kiyotaka Oshiyami called Look Back. This is very short. I believe it's under 60 minutes. It's 58 minutes. And this is about 2 young manga artists starting when they're in like elementary school, who one is very, very good at creating stories, creating entertaining, fun stories through their little comics, their manga. And the other is really, really good at drawing, at creating art. And for a while, they're kind of competitive, but then they actually meet each other and they become best friends. Even they're still a little competitive, but they collaborate, and they are like this prodigy duo of manga artists. And then this movie goes in a really crazy direction that I was not expecting at all. It goes a little cuckoo. And what this movie really is, and I know it's based on a manga by the guy that made Chainsaw Man, and so it's very much autobiographical, but in a more avant-garde way. This character or these 2 characters are definitely supposed to be representations of one person. And I love when films do this. They will take, a lot of times you'll see it with twins, or like sisters, brothers, brother-sister, or in this case, it's best friends, where they represent 2 kind of opposing qualities of a person and how they interact with one another, how they differ from one another, how they contrast. And it's kind of like a representation of inner turmoil, inner synthesis. And like I said, this movie goes in a direction that I was not expecting, but when you look at it from that metaphorical perspective, it makes sense. And it's very effective. It's very moving. And I think this is really a borderline masterpiece. I would love to watch this again. I might. Chances are I'd like it even more than I did the first time. And it's just beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, let's look back. Yup. All right. Movie. So this is kind of like a biopic, but has a very unique quality to where it's actually played by the members. And also, these members, this group has not been around for very long. In fact, I'm sure they have a much bigger following now because of this movie, but before they had a very niche. They were a niche, you know. They didn't have a huge following, so just the fact that there's a full-length film that I saw in a multiplex, by the way, I was the only one there. I saw in a multiplex was mind-blowing, and I already knew about this group going in. I'll get to that. But what's really cool about their music is that they rap a lot of their songs in Irish, and that's what this film. The Irish language is a huge part of this movie. It is kind of the center stage, the importance of the Irish language and how it relates to a kind of post-colonial struggle and a unification, how language can bring people together. And the kind of the thesis statement of this movie, and everybody uses this quote because it's a great quote, is that every word of Irish spoken is a bullet fired for Irish freedom. And that's what this rap group represents. Now, another thing that this film does really well is that it explores the nuances and complexities of what Irish opposed to what it looked like during the Troubles with the IRA. And so you have this contrast. You have these opposing Michael Fassbender playing one of the characters of helping and kind of observing my friend doing his undergrad thesis on representations of Irish mythology in paramilitary propaganda. So our whole trip went from Dublin up to Belfast, up to Derry, back down to Belfast, back down to Dublin, was focused on Irish history, both all the way back to the ancient, but also very, very much during the Troubles, because that's when you see paramilitary propaganda, is the murals from the Troubles. And still today, there are murals being thrown. So that's what our whole trip was surrounded by. I learned so much. I know so much about this thing, right? And when we were talking about where they're playing the traditional Irish music is in this movie. It's in the movie. There's a scene set in that room, which is so fucking cool. Okay, I'm done gushing about Kneecap. This is an incredible film. It recognizes that it's corny at moments, and it has very clever editing where it will recognize its own corniness and is very self-aware. Okay, that's all of the points that I wanted to get out of the way. All right, moving on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis's shape. It's my mother.
This Saturday night on a brand new Pink Opaque.
Drain lords, hundreds of them, coming out of the drains.
Isabel's bathroom has a new supernatural infestation that no exterminator can take care of. It's the attack of the Drain Lords. 10:30 p.m., 9:30 Central, this Saturday night on the Young Adult Network.
They can't hurt you if you don't think about them. They can't hurt you if you don't think about them.
Number 2, runner-up to my favorite film of the year, is a film that I was implored to see from one of my friends who loves this director. They loved their previous film that came out before this, and that is I Saw the TV Glow by Jane Schoenbrunn. And this is a hard movie to talk about in a cohesive manner, because this movie isn't very cohesive in itself. It is way more of a, how do I put it? I think I actually wrote it down because I thought this movie and Look Back had a lot of similar qualities. And that is that both movies are incredible examples of pieces that personify and synthesize memories into nuanced poetic analysis. Non-linear abstractions allow for truth, understanding via feeling, not comprehension. And so, yeah, this movie is way more of a, like I said, it's way more of a feeling rather than something that I could cohesively understand, right? Although I did attempt to, write some cohesive thoughts about it. And I wrote pretty much like a short essay right after I watched this because it was fresh on my mind. I knew I had to write it down. And then it all got deleted. When I tried to upload it, it all got deleted. It was gone. So therefore, I don't really have anything greatly cohesive to say about this. However, I will attempt to do so. So this is about a teenager named Owen, and he is obsessed with this TV show, very much in the style of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I believe this takes place in the late 90s or early 2000s. And he's obsessed with this TV show to the point where that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about anything else in the world. He is also grieving the loss of his mother. But you don't ever really see him grieving, ever. He's just locked in to this obsession with this show, this piece of media. And he meets this other girl who's older in high school. I believe she's a senior, who's also obsessed with the TV show. They have this weird friendship where they are friends, but it's only because they love this TV show. Yet they have these fun interactions with one another, even though they're a little bit numb, if that makes any sense. And what this movie is really showing, it's about trauma in a way, but it's really showing how, and this is a very new thing, this is a very new phenomenon with young people, is that people in the internet age especially have a really hard time coming to terms with themselves, and so they put all of that energy into pieces of media, into material, right? And I'm not trying to make like a thesis statement about this movie or anything, because I think it's much more complex than that. But like I said, I'm trying to do my best to explain my thoughts on it. And yeah, it's kind of a way to avoid coming to terms with yourself, really. And so this character really struggles with their identity, yet they don't really ever actually struggle with it. They're struggling with it deep inside, to the point where you can't even see it. You can't even see the struggle because it's all been shrouded in this obsession with media, right? And I'm not going to get into spoiler territory because I don't believe that's fair. I believe you should see this. There's some things that happen later on in the movie that I would like to talk about, but I'm not. And that's really going to do it. I do want to mention that of all fucking people, I've already talked about him in the CreamBetweens, is that Connor O'Malley is in this, which I was not expecting. In a movie that's pretty, not comedy-based. When he showed up on screen, I burst out laughing in the theater, and I think people were just confused. There is just something about Connor O'Malley where his just knowing who he is, just him, his screen presence is just funny, right? He's just one of those people where he pops up on screen like, oh, he's a funny guy, you know? And I don't think Connor O'Malley had really blown up at the point. He's blown up really recently. So I think people were just confused that I was laughing when he showed up on screen. Anyway, that's going to do it for I Saw the TV Glow. It's at number 2 for a reason. I thought this was going to be my favorite movie of the year for a long time, but another one surpassed it. Another one surpassed it. And it is one of the best films I've ever seen in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, my favorite film of 2024 can be none other than a low-budget, micro-budget, no-budget film. It is a slapstick epic and that is Hundreds of Beavers, directed by Mike Cheslick. I don't know if you've heard of this thing, but go see it. Go watch it on something. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi. It's very available. Please watch this movie. It is one of the most creative, original things that I've seen, not just from film, but from movies in general, ever. It is a masterpiece. And it is about this Applejack guy. He has this little facility where he makes cider. And he has a jolly. And then winter comes and beavers literally blow up his cidery. And he's left in the cold, snowy wilderness of Wisconsin to just survive in the wilderness. And that is the whole premise. And the film is very much in the style of Looney Tunes, kind of, what's his name? Buster Keaton-esque, alluding to that. But what's so cool about this movie and what makes it so good is that it has some of the best world building that I've ever seen in a movie. And by world building, I mean the setting, I mean the characters, the creatures, but also it includes physics. It includes an economy. It includes this wilderness society and how it functions. This all made up thing. And what it really reminded me more of anything is video games. This is a comedy survival RPG in a movie. And if you've ever played a video game that has kind of more complex mechanics, is that it will sometimes introduce them through tutorials, but a lot of times, especially in the case of like Miyazaki, Dark Souls, FromSoft shit, is a lot of times it'll introduce them through just trial and error. Like, you just have to figure shit out. And that's what this movie is doing. It introduces all of these different systems and mechanics of how this world works through slapstick bits. For example, at the very beginning of the movie, he's walking in the snow and then he falls through a hole. And it's like, whoop, haha, funny. And then moves on to the next scene. And it happens a couple more times, and it's like, you recognize that it's a pattern, right? Pattern recognition, part of the brain, And then at one point, he falls into a hole and he's transported to another part of, this wilderness. And it's like, he realizes that these are interconnected tunnels, right? And so then later on, he uses those tunnels to an advantage, which is also tied to all these other mechanics that he's learned throughout the world to trap the different creatures in this wilderness. through slapstick bits, all of which are hilarious, so clever. This movie doesn't rely on references. That's another big thing, is that it's so completely original that you would expect a movie like this to rely on references to other things. It does here and there, but mostly, for the most part, this is completely original. And all of its bits are authentic. And it is so fucking funny. It is non-stop hilarious. And I'm not even really I like physical comedy, but a lot of times I find myself laughing, not that much. This is just so clever that I couldn't help myself. It's fucking hilarious. And I don't really know if I want to say any more about it. That's really it. I've kind of explained. I think if I talked about it anymore, I'd be giving it away. And so I implore you to see this. Trust me, it is a modern masterpiece. It is one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. And I will be championing it. I will be imploring people to see it until the day I die. And that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't heard about Nickel Boys or any other movie yet, that means that I didn't see them, but I definitely will have seen them probably. And that's going to do it for this year-end list. That is the off-the-cuff edition of my list. I'm going to make this one a little bit more produced. You will have heard some music in the background. You will have seen some trailers instead of posters. It's my little gift to you, the 0 people that watch this. Love ya. Have a great rest of your year. And I will see you when I see you. Bye-bye!